What is going on, YouTube? It's your boy Spanko. We're back with Tony.
Hello.
I love having you on the channel, bro. They love having you on the channel. But you're back with a new deck that just came out actually recently, Ursarctic.
Yes, Ursarctic. So, Ursarctic is one of the archetypes that came out of Ancient Guardians. Unfortunately, despite how cool they look, they aren't really functional on their own. Which is why if you look at other profiles like Team Sam X1's, there's not a single Ursarctic in their combos, because that's probably still the best way to play the deck.
But this is a pure Ursarctic.
This is a pure build. See, I would still like to try to make the actual strategy work. So this is everything trying to make just the Ursarctic strategy work without any extra engines. If you want to see the super detailed version where I explain every card and how all the cards synergize with each other, you can check it out on my channel. But realistically, this is going to be the quick fire shot one here we have here.
I'll have a link to your channel in the description below. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, starting off, we have our three. We start off with something known as the Ursartic Micros. These are your level 7 Ursartic monsters. They're beast monsters that are non-tuners. We have our McPolar, our McBillis, and our McTanus. All the Ursartic monsters can special summon themselves on the hand by tributing a level 7 or higher monster. This is a quick effect, which means you can special summon them on either player's turn. Furthermore, upon being special summoned, all the micros have an effect on special summon. McPolar here searches for any Ursartic monster. McBillis allows you to special summon an Ursartic monster from your hand, and McTanus allows you to add back one. Realistically, searching is always good. This one lets you special summon other Ursartics without paying the cost, but McTanus is probably the worst one just because of the fact that you really don't have a graveyard sometimes for this effect, but you need it because it's just a name that you can play.
Of course.
Moving on from there, we then have something known as the Ursartic Megas. These are your level 8 tuner monsters, which is weird to say, but it will make sense later. We have our 3 Ursartic Megatanus, 2 Ursartic Megabilis, and 1 Megapolar. So these ones also can special summon on either player's turn by tributing a level 7 or higher monster. The only difference is, though, their special summon effects only work if you control another Ursartic monster. Megatanus lets you book a monster your opponent controls. Megabilis banishes a card from your opponent's graveyard, and Megapolar pops a card. Because they're quick effects, and the idea is that realistically these cards tend to get into these cards, you'll be using these on your opponent's turn, special summoning them to then disrupt your opponent. Well, these guys will be special summoning on your turn to generate advantage.
Okay.
But the ultimate idea is that because you have your level, when you have your non-tuner and your tuners, you can then do your synchro plays. Well, the idea is that you're going to commit these on your turn, and then commit these on your opponent's turn, to then on your third turn, then actually make your synchro plays.
All right, so the deck is a little bit slower then.
It's pretty slow. It's definitely a tempo kind of deck. And while other engines make this deck a lot faster, it ultimately kind of doesn't adhere to the actual Ursarctic playstyle. You're actually, ironically enough, forced to play cards that don't work with any of these cards at all.
Okay.
So moving on to the only non-Ursarctic monsters we're playing the 3 Melfi Caddy. So Melfi Caddy, if you've ever seen Melfis, the idea behind this card is that when your opponent normal or special summons a monster or declares an attack, you can bounce this card to your hand to search any beast monster, which, as it turns out, is all your Ursarctic micro monsters, including your Searcher and your McBillis, which is your extender.
Nice.
So in most cases, this is a great card that you can just normal summon onto the field, or because it can special summon itself on the end phase, it's a great way to also special summon itself if you commit your normal summon. But the idea is to get you into your micros and to let you keep your hand advantage to continuously search them over turns. From there, one of the targets you might search is your Hop Ear Squadron. Hop Ear Squadron on your opponent's main phase targets one of your monsters to special summon itself onto the field and then synchro summon it. The idea is that realistically you can search this off of your Melfi Caddy, but it lets you target one of your level 7 special summon. And the cool part about this specific play here is that it special summons twice, something that becomes relevant for our spell and trap support. Wrapping things up, we have our 3 Ash Blossom as well as our 3 Valor. Great hand traps overall. You can use these as tuners to synchro with your level 7 as well to make level 7 synchros. And because they're 1 level away from your Melfi Caddy, they do allow you access into your Ursarctic synchros as well.
Oh, nice.
So there's some synergy there. But realistically, you're probably just using it from hand traps.
Yeah.
Going to the spells, we start off 2 Ursarctic Big Dipper. Big Dipper is a field spell with a few effects. First off, if you would tribute a monster to activate any of your Ursarctic effects, you can banish an Ursarctic from your graveyard instead. This essentially allows you to, instead of tributing the monsters in your hand to special summon out your Ursarctics, you can use the up ones in your graveyard to summon more from your hand, saving the cost. It is a once per turn effect though, but the nice part is it's a soft once per turn, meaning that since we're playing 2 copies, if you were somehow to be able to open both copies, you can blast that effect twice per turn. The other effect, which is kind of cool, is that while you control an Ursarctic synchro monster, well, first off, every time a monster is special summoned onto the field, both players special summon, this card gains a counter. If you were to control an Ursarctic synchro monster, while this card has 7 or more counters, you can send 7 counters, or all the counters from this card, out when your opponent's special summon monster to then take control of any monster your opponent controls.
Kind of like a Snatch Steal.
It's a permanent Snatch Steal.
Oh, nice.
Which is really good, especially since in a lot of cases, since you're special summoning monsters on your opponent's turn as well, and then your opponent special summons, it's very easy to gain 7 counters pretty fast, multiple times per turn, to take monsters in multiple games.
Nice.
It's a great Snatch Steal effect, great disruption. Going from there, we have 3 Ursartic Departure. Departure can discard a card from a hand, search 2 Ursartics from your deck. Furthermore, while in the graveyard, if you would once again tribute a monster to activate an Ursartic effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead. You just can't use it on the turn sent to the graveyard. So this really comes into play when you're banishing, when you want to summon out your Ursartic Megas on your opponent's turn, because you'll use this card maybe to search into a Micro Monster and a Mega Monster, summon out the Micro Monster on your turn, but then use this card to summon out the Mega without burning up cards in your hand.
You know what's funny? I don't mean to cut you off, but what's funny is that I've seen other people's deck profiles who play this, but they play it as a one-of, which is kind of weird because this is pretty much like a Melody of Awakening Dragon.
Yeah, like, it's a weird card because, again, hard once per turn, there's always that problem. But you play 3 not only just because of the search, but because of that graveyard.
Yeah.
It really makes you, it allows you to summon out double Megas on your opponent's turn. It lets you pay costs later. And a lot of times, because of how the fact that these cards, all the Ursartics can only tribute from hand, you're burning out your hand fast. So any kind of cost mitigation that you can play is a good thing for the deck.
Yep.
So that's why we're playing 3. At worst, if you actually open both of them, you can discard one for the other, and that's fine too. If you open all 3, that's hella weird, but at that point, you're also not going to lose based off of hand advantage alone.
Yeah.
Then we have 3 Ursartic Slider. Quick play spell, when activated, summons back an Ursartic banished or graveyard monster. Really useful just as a revival card. You mostly use it for a reborn, but you can also activate it on your opponent's turn to summon out Ursartic Megas to disrupt your opponent, so kind of nice there too. Going from there, we're playing 3 Pot of Prosperity, just a great way to dig into your nice consistency cards. The 1 Monster Reborn, another way to bring back your tributed Ursartics, and the Call by the Grave, because in testing, I quickly realized if your Departure or your McPuller gets like ashed, it really sucks. Yeah. That is a straight neg 2.
Yeah.
Finally, wrapping up the traps, we have the more interesting traps. So no one's playing this a lot, but it's Ursartic Quinn Charge. So Quinn Charge has 2-ish effects. One effect, by paying 700 life, that's less than 1/10 of your life, so that's better than a scout, you can either add 1 Ursartic monster from your graveyard back to your hand, or tribute 2 Ursartics you control to summon out a synchro monster from your X deck equal to the difference of their levels. So the first effect, this is a great way just to recycle your Ursartics. In a lot of ways, you will be tributing 1 to summon out the other one. What this card allows you to grab it back and then special summon on your opponent's turn, or just use it as tribute again. The other effect basically lets you cheat out your synchro monsters on your opponent's turn, which can lead to some really funky plays, but it's also a great way to just clear out your dead Ursartics to get your synchros in earlier. The other effect, which is really, really weirdly powerful, is when one of your Ursartic synchro monsters is destroyed by your opponent's attack. So your opponent actually has to attack into you. It shuffles back your opponent has to shuffle back cards from their graveyard, field, and hand, such that the total among all 3 is 7.
Okay.
So it's like, it's essentially acting as a really weird evenly match. It kind of acts like a fiber jar and resets the game for your opponent if in certain situations, but it also can be huge if your opponent has like a head-on advantage and your opponent just like recklessly goes in for the kill. Yeah. Then we're playing 2 Call the Haunted, just another way to revive your Ursartics. Mostly just to revive your Megas on your opponent's turn, but overall just another revival card. Going into the extra deck, we start off 3 Ursartic Polari. So Polari is a level 1 synchro monster. This is the only level 1 synchro monster in the game. And the only way to summon this card, you can't synchro summon it either. The only way to summon this card is by sending 2 monsters, a tuner and a non-tuner, whose difference in levels is 1. And while face up on the field, when special summoned, he activates Big Dipper directly from your deck. And while face up on the field, you can tribute a level 7 or higher monster to special summon an Ursartic monster from your graveyard onto the field. So, a few good things. 1, given the fact that your Ursartic monsters are level 7 and 8, one of them being a tuner and one of them being non-tuner, this easily makes this. Yep. While on the field, it activates Big Dipper, which Big Dipper allows you to then pay the cost for its own revival effect by banishing one of the Ursartics you probably synchroed with to summon out this card. Then, because of that, you can bring back a level 8 monster, one of your level 8s, which combined with that level 8, you can then make your larger Ursartic synchros, which include, in this case, our 2 Ursartic Septetron. So Septetron is your win condition. While on the field, it's a skill drain for all monsters from the X deck that don't have a level. So C's, links, bye-bye. Furthermore, when your opponent special summons a monster, you can search for an Ursartic card. This gets into not only your monsters, but also gets into your traps. If you don't have anything that you need to search, you search in your traps, and then you build up for the following turn. But being a 3K skill drain is pretty decent.
I'd say pretty good.
Yeah, and the idea is that since the card essentially is a 1-card way into this card, it's really easy to get in this card as long as you get 2 Ursartics, a Mega, and a Micro onto the field. The other one we're playing is 1 Grand Chariot. Grand Chariot, when summoned, These cards can only be summoned in the same way that you can summon Polari. You can only send a level 8 or higher tuner, and a non-tuner whose difference in levels is 7. So this one here, when this card is summoned, he blows up 2 cards on the field. Great effect, you usually use it for game, but if with cards like Quinn Charge, you can also summon it by sending a Polari and a level 8 on your opponent's turn to summon this to destroy cards on your opponent's turn as well. It also has the targeting protection effect that doesn't really come in advantage a lot, but in most cases you're just using it for the destruction effect, and you're probably then just using it to make a second Polari from there.
Nice.
From there, we then have level 8 Synchros, and Emancipated Risen Dragite. We are playing Waters after all, and the Omega, which we can make using an Effect Veiler and the level 7. A Shen Shen and a Croco Dragon that we can make using our Hoppier Squadron and our level 7. The level 10s here, we have our Final Sigma and our Time Lord Vulgate, which we can make using an Ash and a level 7. And so we also have a few Xyz and Links. So one of the weird things I didn't mention is that all the Ursartics have a limitation, where if you were to use their effects, you can't summon anything that doesn't have a level for the rest of the turn.
Okay.
However, since you're summoning on your opponent's turn, there's a lot of situations where you may start your turn off with just a bunch of level 8s and level 7 monsters. And in that way, you can convert them into Xyzes like Dracosac or Dingirsus, or something like BLS. Since BLS is made using a level 7 or higher, he does get that protection as well. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck.
Okay, well, first thing I want to say is that I'm really actually impressed by this deck. It's very different, the concept of the deck in general.
Yeah, so one of the things I thought was just kind of depressing is that at this point, to play the deck, you need engines.
Yeah.
Just because the engines let you do things quicker. But that really, again, all those engines really didn't need an Ursartic monster. If you look at the Deep Sea Diva combo, you summon the Synchros, but you didn't even need to open an Ursartic monster to do any of those combos.
Yeah, so this is like the true definition of
Yeah,
Ursartic
like this is
deck
me
profile.
trying to make Ursartics actually work as Ursartics. And while I don't think this is really viable for a meta situation at the moment, I do think with more support coming out, this deck probably will push its playstyle a lot better in the future to be much more playable.
Yep.
So keep this skeleton in mind, I guess, when that happens.
All right, thank you, Tony, for the deck profile. I appreciate having you on the channel like always. If you guys want to check out like a more in-depth version of the deck profile, go to Tony's channel. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Yeah, that's really all I gotta say. Tony, thank you for doing this. I appreciate
Always happy to be here.
It's a new deck. It's kind of nice to have new content, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if like they made new content that was actually more like decent, easy to build. But like, hey, Lightning Overdrive is coming out in 2 weeks.
That's
Look
gonna
forward
be
to
a
that.
good one. That one's gonna be a good one. All right, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. With that, Spanko and Tony. Peace.